With all the craziness of the real estate market, Fort Collins is no different. And I came across an article from Inman, which is a great news publication and kind of blog for real estate professionals. And they came out with the 10 myths of the current real estate market. And I wanted to kind of apply those to Fort Collins and what I have seen personally that you could expect if you're looking at buying or selling here in Northern Colorado. So that being said, my name is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services here in Fort Collins. Hopefully you enjoy today's video, the 10 myths of today's current real estate market. Let's jump in. Seller myth number 1, no seller preparation is needed. And I can agree with this to a certain extent and disagree with it another way. There are houses that are on the market, and depending upon their price point, a seller can really just walk away and leave it in a horrible condition. And because of the neighborhood that it's in, the specs of the home, specifically the lot size and the square footage of the house, it could be bid up crazy just because of where it is and what it is. Now, other homes that are in less desirable neighborhoods, it is absolutely imperative that sellers take the time to do the landscape, clean up the inside, make it show ready, declutter, and prepare the home to sell. So I would say myth number 1, specifically to Fort Collins, it just depends on the neighborhood and where it is and what the specs are of the home. Myth number 2, there's no such thing as a crazy asking price. I would have to agree with this. There are homes that sit on the market because of those things that we spoke about in myth number 1. Maybe the neighborhood isn't as desirable, or the house needs substantial more work than what the price is asking for. And so it sits. And right now, the one thing that you do not want your property to do is sit on the market. Now, specific price points, I would say you can still expect a longer period on the market. Specifically, 1.5, 2 million and above here in Fort Collins is kind of that price point where homes, depending on the price, will sit longer because our buyer pool has shrunk considerably. Especially with interest rates rising, these payments are now pretty substantial. So myth number 2, yes, I would say it is important to price your home right in this market, and right can be a spectrum of numbers depending on what the strategy is of the listing agent to sell that home. Myth number 3, post-occupancy is free and guaranteed. I would say that yes, a lot of sellers are looking to leverage this ability to have a post-occupancy, but a lot of sellers, again, depending on the desirability and the demand of the home, you as a buyer and a buyer's agent have to determine, are we giving a free rent, no security deposit, maximum amount of 60 days to the seller? Or hey, we have a mortgage and we want to at least have our mortgage covered, or at minimum our principal and interest covered for that 5, 10, 30, 60 days that the seller is going to live in the property. So this is going to be something to where you are going to have to understand how many offers are on this home in the market. But in Fort Collins, I've got a client that is under contract that absolutely is getting a strong security deposit, very strong rent, and are allowing the sellers to stay in the house for 45 days. And then I have another one that we are closing tomorrow with no security deposit and no rent, because that was the strategy in the negotiations that we used to leverage the seller to go with our contract. Number 4, selling as is easy. This kind of relates to number 1, so I won't dive into it too much. I would say in Colorado, we sell as is already, but that being said, you could still expect inspections and things of that nature. So selling it as is, depending upon the price point that you're willing to sell it and what you were trying to net walking away from the home, yes, not very easy unless you are just selling it to wash your hands of it and get out. And then finally, for the seller side, myth number 5, buyers must waive all contingencies. I have personally not waived one inspection, something that I'm not going to negotiate on. I will limit what inspection items we are looking at to health, safety, and structure, specifically if there's mold or there's foundation issues or there's locking issues with the windows or doors, or there's smoke alarms, or if radon is high. Those things I absolutely want my buyer to be able to negotiate or terminate based on. I don't want them to feel like they have to give away the farm on price and also leave themselves high and dry on not even having an inspection or being able to negotiate on that side of things. So it's, for me personally, I am not waiving any inspections. I'm giving some on the appraisal side of things. I'm getting our loans through underwriting. But if a seller is expecting a buyer to waive all contingencies, sure. There are agents that are forcing or asking or telling their clients to do that. It's not something that I feel comfortable with or believe that you have to do. So that being said, number 5, buyer waiving all contingencies. Yes, 100% myth, especially in my book on the inspection side of things. Here comes the buyer side. Myth number 1 for the buyer. I'm gonna wait until prices come down. Okay, this is a tough conversation to have because the last thing that I wanna do is guarantee anything. I myself am closing on a rental tomorrow in Severance. I am buying in Northern Colorado. I believe in its vitality, the desirability of living here, what future it holds, and what expectations are for population growth, what builders are able to do on the supply of new homes, who is selling homes, who are buying homes, and what does that mean for the inventory here. So me personally, I am not waiting for prices to fall, but hey, listen, if you are listening to somebody who they are dead set on this is why X, Y, Z, prices are going to fall, and that is your belief, I'm not gonna argue it. I'm just letting you know, and I'm letting my clients know, until the day comes that I decide not to no longer buy in Northern Colorado. I will then, at that point, if I make that decision to not buy, I will tell my clients, hey, this is crazy. But until that point, my belief is supply, demand, economics, price, not gonna change anytime soon. Myth number 2 for the buyer, the real estate market's going to crash. There are websites out there, there are YouTube gurus, there are many, many, many people who are suggesting that the real estate market could crash. And hey, it could. And I think if it did, it would be very similar to in 2008 and 9 as far as what areas it impacted the most. And specifically price versus wages, rent versus mortgages, the supply of rental properties to owner-occupied properties, when individuals bought, the criteria of those buyers, prices of those areas and homes, what has happened. I think there's so many things to look at, but for me here in Fort Collins, sure, there are a lot of people that are pouring every dime that they can into homes and having 49.99% DTI when they're buying houses. But homes have significant amount of equity. Even in the last year, the average person in Fort Collins has about $60,000 to $70,000 of equity if they bought in the last year. So the market is going to have to tank in Fort Collins of 5, 10, 20+% for those to get impacted, have to sell, go to foreclosure, and have this similar market crash that we did in 2008 and 9. In 2008 and 9, Fort Collins had a 0.5% and a 2% drop. Right now, if that happened, Fort Collins would be just fine for all those people who have bought at minimum 3 months ago, based off of what I've seen as far as the equity gains just in the last 3 months. This is another buyer myth that I hit on the seller side. Buyers, you do not have to waive all contingencies. Sure, let's keep our dates and deadlines extremely tight. Let's limit our inspection items, but 100% have an inspection and the ability to terminate. Protect that earnest money. Okay, let's give an appraisal gap. But that being said, let's not get crazy on what offering price we're doing unless this is your dream home, can't live without it, would die if you didn't get the house. Okay, at that point, I've had one appraisal gap take place. Sorry, Cam, if you're watching, you were the one that I've had one appraisal gap in the last 18 months hit. And we have done substantial amount of deals. I am very proud of that number. Basically, it tells me that yes, we are offering strong prices, but we are not going crazy. We're not that one offer that's $50,000 above the next. We are getting our intel. We are understanding what the market is. And no, you do not have to waive all of your contingencies that protect you as a buyer when you're making a $500,000, $750,000, or $1 million decision here in Northern Colorado. Myth number 4 for a buyer, you can't negotiate on an overpriced home. we're seeing some homes sit. We're seeing some homes take price reductions. Not many, but some. And the reasons could be for a lot of different reasons. They're a funky house, they're not prepped, ready to sell, they sit on a busy road, or they need tons of updating. Don't feel like you can't come in and offer price less than list price. I was just at a real estate summit here in Northern Colorado, BizWest. They suggested that 25% of homes are going under list price, 25% are going at list price, and 50% are going above list price. So do not feel that if it's a house that is sitting on the market, which right now, depending on the price point, generally over 5 days, you can negotiate on that price. Maybe even get it under list. Who knows? And the last buyer myth, myth number 5 for a buyer, it is better to buy an off-market property. That's possible, but they're definitely hard to come by. Definitely suggest here in Fort Collins, if you are renting, to talk to your landlord. We've had clients who have had great luck with that. Now, that being said, buyers of off-market properties are still having a little bit of a difficult time finding those properties. And by little, I mean extremely difficult. Us agents, us licensed real estate agents are going and we are hammering the doors, telling everybody it's the best time to buy or best time to sell. Now, you as a buyer do have some leverage, some strategy of negotiating, especially if you're renting, that maybe you have an off-market deal, save some commissions, get something handled. But that being said, who knows if the seller is doing well or the buyer is doing well. Hopefully it's a good deal for both. I personally am strongly for off-market deals between a buyer and a seller individually if they can find and negotiate and come to terms that make sense for both of them. Now, that being said, it is extremely difficult. For many, many years, that is all I did to grow my rental properties. And I've got 20 rental units here in Fort Collins in Northern Colorado. And generally speaking, all but I think 2 or 3 of those were off-market deals. I closed about 1 or 2 a year. I spent tens of thousands of dollars finding these properties. It is very difficult. Now, as a real estate agent, trying to find those off-market deals and bring them to the market, it's a little bit different conversation that we're bringing to those sellers, but as a buyer, definitely a possibility. So I would say myth number 10, it's better to find an off-market deal. Sure, I actually agree with that. If you can find the right situation, talk to your landlord, talk to your buddy's landlord, and then if that doesn't work, absolutely look on market because those are already motivated, ready, and willing sellers. So there you have it, 5 myths for sellers and 5 myths for buyers from Inman Connect, or Inman, specifically related to Fort Collins, Colorado, and what I'm seeing in today's market. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's provided value to you and yours. And if you do have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you've enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and absolutely, if you were looking at buying, selling, or investing, definitely feel free to reach out. Give me a call, text, or email. Until next time, guys, take care.